Congressman Roemer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you again for a very, very helpful and thought-provoking statement that you gave us. I want to probe and push a little bit harder on two things that you've already talked about a little bit. One is the decision to fire the missiles into Sudan at the Al-Shifa plant. You've outlined in very specific detail 3 or 4 reasons why you decided to do that and why you might have regretted doing that at a later point.
No, I never regretted doing that.
Why there were 3 or 4 reasons you are glad you did it, and why those things could have come back to haunt you if...
Okay, all right.
Okay. You can clarify my question in your answer. With respect to Sudan, every single person in the Clinton administration has told us that it was a very difficult decision, that they didn't have regrets about it, as you have not had any regrets about it, and that they were roundly criticized for it, not only because there was some theory on Capitol Hill about wag the dog, which you have clarified, I think, in your remarks, but I want to push you harder on the other part of this. A couple of the people, including Sandy Berger, in the private sessions with us said they remembered the editorials across the country saying they didn't get bin Laden. They created, according to an Economist article, the Economist accused them of maybe creating 100 Osama bin Ladens because they did not kill him with the cruise missile strikes. How does that not impact, to some degree, your decision subsequently when you're having these kinds of decisions come forward to make the tough call as you did in this particular instance?
It had no impact.
Good.
I looked at the question. I was satisfied that, I regret that one life was lost during that particular attack. We were very precise. We timed it, as a matter of fact, so there would be very few, if any, people at the plant. It was at nighttime. It was timed simultaneously with the attack, virtually in Afghanistan, so that we didn't lose the surprise element. And we tried to minimize any collateral damage to the extent that we could, but we were prepared to take that down. The wag the dog issue, I think, was unfortunate. It was untrue, but that was something, the reality of what was taking place on Capitol Hill. As far as the criticism was concerned, it had no deterrent whatsoever in terms of our commitment to look for, hunt for, and to capture or kill bin Laden. I do want to urge one cautionary note, and that is that even though it's important to capture or kill bin Laden, I think that we should understand that doesn't end it any more than capturing Saddam Hussein has stopped some of the terrorist actions. I think that we have seen Al-Qaeda doesn't have a central headquarters, it doesn't fly a flag. It is spread through many countries, and I know it can be argued that because there were not prior action taken, it's even more disseminated now. But the fact is that we would take action against bin Laden or his associates wherever we thought we could do so successfully. What we didn't want to do was to take action that satisfied the passion of the moment, that gave us a sense, well, we're doing something, but in fact had the effect of simply generating opposition to what we were doing, undercutting the sharing of intelligence, cooperation, making our goal of actually capturing or killing him more difficult. So that was the only hesitation we had. Does this action that is being proposed have a probability of success? Is it likely to achieve our goal, or is it more likely to undercut our efforts? Those were the only considerations that we had.
I'm very happy to hear that. Let me ask you the question to look forward. Secretary Rumsfeld, who will be with us momentarily, wrote a memo that I think outlined the problem in the future absolutely to the point. And he said, as you have just indicated, that the military is not the only weapon, that it's one of many arrows in the quiver. one of many tools in the toolbox to use. I'd like to push you a little bit harder on a country that is absolutely critical to the United States in our future, and that's Indonesia. What specifically, as these training camps produce this wrath of hatred and jihadists, what can we do, even if we're out there with the military killing people and trying to eliminate the terrorists and the jihadists? What can we do as they're cranking out these human conveyor belts of terrorists in education in a place like Indonesia to replace the madrasas with a practical education? Or what can Indonesia do? What can we do on IMET? What can we do reaching out to the moderates in the government there? How can we begin to put new types of military and State Department and intel efforts to reach out to these types of critically important countries in the future?
Thank you, Harrison Roemer. You had Secretary of State here earlier, Secretary Powell, and I think he laid out some of the, quote, diplomatic initiatives that have to be undertaken. Some of it involves diplomacy, it involves the use of economic, both incentives and disincentives, it involves sanctions, it involves a variety of things. But most of all, it requires engagement on the part of the United States in a very aggressive diplomatic fashion. Sheikh Zalman, who is the Crown Prince of Bahrain, if any of you have not had occasion to meet with him, I'd recommend that you talk to this young man. He's one of the most progressive young leaders that I have met, certainly in my travels, but especially in the Gulf region, along with King Abdullah of Jordan. But Sheikh Zalman made an observation a few months ago, which I endorse, basically pointing to the problem that the United States has in dealing with this issue, that much of the Arab world looks through two lenses. One lens focused on how we conduct ourselves in Iraq now that we're there, how we successfully resolve or achieve success in Iraq and treat the Iraqi people in that process. And the other happens to do with the Middle East conflict, that many Muslims throughout the world also look through the lens of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And so I think we have to become much more engaged there as well. And that's why I mentioned, I don't think it should wait until November elections are over. I think that we have to energize that process now. And I have my own thoughts about what needs to be done and have written about that. In addition to that, we have to engage Indonesia diplomatically, militarily. The IMET program is one of the most important programs that we have. The sharing of educational materials, exercises, planning with other militaries. Because of the superiority, I believe, of the men and women who serve us, because of their excellence in education, discipline, leadership, fellowship, all the things that make us the greatest military force on the face of the earth, we should be trying to share that talent, technology, techniques with other countries. And yes, they may be accused of not living up to our standards of human rights. All the more reason why we should engage them. All the more reason why we have to persuade them that this is the way a military has to operate. Not with clubs and batons, not with the law of rule, but the rule of law. That also has to take place. So IMET's important. I think we also have to go to other countries who support the madrasas and say that you are feeding the flames of future destruction here. That requires education. It requires giving countries also a hope. And I'll come back to Palestine, just the Palestinians for a moment. Unless you see people who have an opportunity for either sovereignty, dignity, and opportunity, you're likely to see continued festering of violence in the region. So you have to give people a sense of hope. Economic hope, individual liberty in terms of their opportunities, all of that is involved. So that requires us to be engaged in a very aggressive way diplomatically. The military, by the way, plays a role, a great role in diplomacy. We have our State Department, and they do an outstanding job with very limited resources. But the military also plays a very big role when our men and women in uniform go to a country and people are able to judge them and see how good they are, how disciplined, how well led, how technically capable, etc., how good they are as human beings. They make a judgment about us, and they say, we want to be like you. We want to have the same kind of capability. We want to develop a relationship with you. We need to do more of that. And so every time there's an issue that comes up on the Hill and say, well, abuse of human rights, cut off IMET. We should be holding on to IMET. I could carry on at length about this particular requirement, and I know that there are people on the Hill who would object to that. But I think we have a better chance of influencing people in their judgments about us and helping to persuade them that the way of the future is to have a military like that of the United States and our allies, to subordinate that military to civilian rule, to educate the military, to help persuade them that they are in this war against terror with us. All of that comes about with diplomacy and a very strong military capability and diplomatic effort.
Thank you very much. I hope this committee, this commission will take into consideration those very provocative and thoughtful recommendations and our recommendations at the end of the day. Thank you.
Secretary Cohen, thank you very, very much, not only for your testimony today, but I know you have given very generously of your time to this commission and private sessions and with staff, and for that I thank you very much. I hope if we have additional questions, and I know we're going to want to talk to you a bit more as we get into our recommendations.